So we must do two things, two great things together, to encompass that enormous new view that lies before us, but to encompass it within the framework of science, to see it within the whole categorical framework of science, and to see that these two are not separate, but that they are wedded. The bigness of the idea, the newness of the idea, the greatness of it is one with the structure of science, the structure of being itself. All right, so we've come to the third vision of truth, the 7 trumpets, the uncovering of error. We said that this uncovering process is going on at the same time as the analysis is going on. That we don't have 7 seals being unsealed and then 7 trumpets being blown, but it is a simultaneous process, isn't it? That simultaneous working of the Christ whenever we touch the Word. Whenever the Word is revealing itself, the Christ is in operation. And so we will go through those 7. They are not always easy to understand, but we will try to sketch them briefly and bring out the essential tone of the symbolism. So at the point of mind, we have that first angel sounding the trumpet. And there followed hail and fire. Whenever you have hail in the Bible, you have a sense of that powerful one mind in operation. And so we see that the power of the divine mind that was revealed in the first seal, that power to conquer, conquering and to conquer, now is that trumpet that uncovers the nothingness of the power of mortal mind. So remember always that we have the equipollence being brought out, the equipollence of the fact that mind, the divine mind, is the all-power, and that is uncovering the nothingness of the power of mortal mind. I am the all-power, I am not the power of mortal mind. Mortal mind has no power. And so that hail was cast upon the earth, and the third part was burnt up. And remember, we said that whenever we hear the terminology, the third part, that it is an indication of the counterfeit, and that the counterfeit is being uncovered as unreal. So the third part was burnt up. It's the destruction of material mindedness. And we come to spirit, and the second angel sounded, and there was a great mountain, the calculus of spirit. So the calculus of spirit uncovers what? The nothingness of the flesh. That mountain was burning with fire, burning with the purification fires of spirit, and was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. It is the purification of spirit as it uncovers the false belief of material and mortal life. Then we come to soul, and we see what the joy of soul uncovers. The third angel sounds, and it says, there fell a great star from heaven. You'll notice that in the third tone, in the third trumpet, and also in the fifth trumpet, We have a great star falling from heaven. John Dorley and Max Kapler explained to us that this star of the third tone corresponds to the third 1,000-year period, the appearing of Moses. And in the fifth tone, the star that fell from heaven was Jesus. So something comes down from heaven, a representative from heaven, burning, as it were, a lamp. Remember those lamps we said were the days of creation, and that behind those days of creation was the identity of the seven synonymous terms. And that star fell upon the third part of the rivers and fountains of water. In other words, it fell on all that, all the sense of the mortal elements of thought. Whenever you have the rivers or the fountains or any sense of water or the sea, you're dealing with the elements of mortal thought. And how did it affect those waters? Because we might think that that has all to do with mind, and it has a mind tone to it. But the effect on those waters is what is being brought out here. That the name of the star is called wormwood, and apparently that wormwood was bringing bitterness into those waters. They became bitter. The third part of the water became wormwood. It's showing us that the joy of soul is that which uncovers the nothingness of human thinking. It makes human thinking bitter. It brings out the bitterness of human thinking, so that there's nothing there that we want to hold on to or identify with. The joy of soul just uncovers all of that within us that thinks there's something there that could give us still any sense of satisfaction, any sense of joy whatsoever. And so the rivers were made bitter. It's the opposite of that sweetness of soul, that joy of soul. Then we come to the fourth angel, the fourth trumpet sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten. The third part of the sun, moon, and stars was darkened. You hear, we're at the fourth again. It's so exact, isn't it, this terminology, how they return to those same symbols that we found right in Genesis at the beginning. And here at the end of the Bible, you see the consistency of it, the consistency of a scientific consciousness to utilize the same symbols to bring out that sense of principle and what principle does. That the fourth seal, that divine system of principle, the sense that God is principle and science and divine system, will always uncover the nothingness of false systems and will show that they are valueless. So all of the human hypotheses, false sciences and systems are disclosed as having no value. And an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe," by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. This is what principle always does. It opens the way for the demonstration of life, truth, and love. Those remaining three trumpets are now going to demonstrate themselves on the basis of having fulfilled the uncovering of mortal mind, the flesh, and the bitterness of human thinking. So we come to the point of life, the fifth angel sounding. It is the first woe. And it says, I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. And we see that that star is Jesus. To him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Here we have the key again, but it is the key that unlocks error, that uncovers error. And he opened the bottomless pit. And out of that bottomless pit came smoke and locusts upon the earth. The locusts were a symbol for mass thinking. That mass thinking that had to be addressed, that had to be uncovered. So the immortality of life is beginning to uncover the sense of mortality, of mortal life. And it says they could hurt only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. You remember the 144,000 were sealed. They had the seal of God in their foreheads. And we saw that around about the throne were those that had the seal of God in their foreheads, that being stamped with that true individuality. So we see that when that bottomless pit is unlocked or is decoded, that it never touches our true individuality, our God identity. It never touches our pattern, so to say. But it will touch that which is unlike the pattern and do something to it, will self-destroy that which is unlike the pattern. So the immortality of life is uncovering the self-destructiveness of mortal life. Then we come to the sixth, and we see that the first five are leading us to the sixth, where the sixth angel sounds. And I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God. Those horns being the nature of truth, the power of truth, the Christ power. Loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And those four were loosed. Remember that that one river that ran through the garden was really the river Euphrates, and that it split into four rivers. Those four were Pison, Gihon, Hiddekel, and Euphrates itself, a symbol of the Word, the Christ, Christianity, and science. And they were loosed. The four angels were loosed that were bound in that river Euphrates to slay the third part of man, you see, to slay the counterfeit sense, to uncover the counterfeit sense of man. And so it says 200,000 horsemen of the army were there, a symbol of truth destroying the false identity of man. And so Max Kapler gives the epitome at that point as follows, that through scientific thinking, truth uncovers the powerlessness of material thinking. It's at this point that we see that the rest of the men that were not destroyed repented not. This is an important thing to see, that there was still something that was resisting that truth, that was working against that truth. This has to be resolved. We will see that it is resolved through the rest of the story and what happens to cause that resolution. And now we come to chapter 10. We have finished chapter 9 and we come to chapter 10, still within the tone of truth, in that order of the word, that order of the trumpets. And with chapter 10, we touch the chapter Apocalypse. With chapter 10 in Revelation, we touch at the same time the opening of Mrs. Eddy's 16th chapter of the textbook. So that you see that each time we have touched truth so far, we have had some indication to the textbook. In the seals, we had that sixth seal as the opening of the book, the causing that earthquake, the appearing of that book causing the earthquake. And now, corresponding with that, we have the sixth trumpet, and that sixth trumpet includes the fact that there was another mighty angel coming down. So are we all together on where we are in the overall development? Good, wonderful. So you can really open your textbook now to page 558. Page 558 and 559. And you see there that the two marginal headings are the new evangel. And that new evangel is Science and Health. And on the following page, Truth's volume. A beautiful double entendre there, Truth's volume being really Science and Health, and being that volume of truth, that sense of the volume of truth as it out sounds and uncovers the full diapason of secret tones. So that text is showing us the first touch of Christian Science. How Christian Science comes, it's actually prefiguring divine science, that Christian Science is introduced as an angel. And we have that text on page 558 and 559 appearing in the order of the word, in the word order. And we will take that together. What I would like to do is to just quickly give you the breaks so that you have them, so that I don't have to mention them as we go through the tones. So the tone of mind will be on page 558, 9 to 12. Spirit, line 13 only. Soul, line 13, beginning with when you, and continuing over to, let's see, 13 to 19. Principle, 559, 1 to 8. Life, 559, 8 to 14. truth, 14 to 20, and love, 20 to 31. So we have that text from Revelation, and let's read it together. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven. Something comes down now, something descends. There is a descent, and this descent is going to instigate an ascent, is going to cause an ascending way. The angel is clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book open. So he has the little book. He's brought now down to earth from heaven that book which is open. Isn't that beautiful? The book that was in the right hand of the one who sat upon the throne has been opened and decoded by the Lamb and is now translated to earth, translated to another state of consciousness. And he set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot on the earth. I don't know whether you have your epitomes book with you. It's not something that I had thought to ask you to bring. It doesn't matter if you don't have it. The layout there is that we are looking at the ascending way. You see, actually, remember I told you that when I was thinking about this class, that was the initial thing that kept coming to me. The ascending way, actually the descending way and the ascending way, the descending and the ascending, the implicate order and the explicate order. And then how I was gradually led to consider Revelation and Apocalypse, and not realizing or having not thought about it, when I came to that structure of the 16th chapter, realizing again that it is just that very thing. It is laid out, the whole structure of the chapter is laid out in the ascending way of science, the way of understanding, and the descending way of demonstration. And so we touch now that ascending way, and we will see that first as the level of Christian Science, then as the level of absolute Christian Science, and thirdly as the level of divine science. When we have reached the level of divine science, the descending way will come in, and we will make that descent again from divine science to absolute Christian Science to Christian Science, at which point the chapter ends and the textbook closes. So we are at that point in the ascending way of Christian Science, and there are two aspects to that point of intersection: the aspect of truth and the aspect of love. Truth and love. We'll find that truth and love are the main accentuation that she gives to the chapter, that she actually is accenting or accentuating the science vertical in the model of being as the essence of her discovery, the essence of her mission. And so in Christian Science, that accent is first on truth, then it is on love. In absolute Christian Science, it is on truth and love. In divine science, it will be on love and principle. And then in the descending way, at the point of divine science, on principle, love. Absolute Christian Science, truth and love. And at the final point of descent, in Christian Science, the entire accent is on love, and truth is, so to say, implicate in love. Truth is not accentuated anymore. So she builds up the theme, the subject, starting with truth, then love, truth and love, and finally at the close of the chapter, the main accent is on love in that final descent. So the beginning of the chapter, where we are, is again Christian Science at the point of truth. It is at the point of truth as scientific thought. We have that angel as the symbol of scientific thought. When we come to the 12th chapter, the 12th chapter of Revelation, you know that she takes this part of the sixth trumpet, which is chapter 10. She will then not take in chapter 11 in Revelation. We'll see why. But she will then go to chapter 12, and with chapter 12 bring in the love sense of Christian Science on the ascending way, bringing out the spiritual idea, so that scientific thought will begins to move in an ascending way to the spiritual idea, or the true womanhood. And we will have the woman in the apocalypse bringing out the love tone in Christian Science on the ascending way. That's a lot, I know, for you. Is everybody okay? All right? Good. Thank you. You know, there's such womanhood here this week. I want you to know I feel that. There's such an open acceptance for this idea, and I can't tell you how much that means to a presentation. Thank you for that.